The Jimmy Butler experience. It's a beautiful thing. Sophia Jones and I are going to break down the positive impact of the superstar player since he's joined the Golden State Warriors. The numbers are incredible. The Golden State Warriors are playing amazing. Let's break it all down. It's the Golden Days.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. It was a pretty crazy night.
Let's go.
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. 'Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
Hey now, welcome to the Golden Days. Happy Monday, everybody. Oh, I can't believe it's Monday. Sophia Jones joins me today. She is my co-host for the afternoon. You can follow Sophia on Twitter at SophiaJones_2. You can follow me on Threads and Instagram at DogWild, over on Twitter at Surf Journalist. I called out the person who has the @DogWild handle on Twitter for being the squatter he is. I actually tried negotiating with that individual almost 10 years ago because @DogWild is my identity. I use that handle not just because I love dogs, but because I actually have a published book that came out a long time ago. It was like another lifetime ago, called Dog Wild and Bored. And that term is, I like it. It's my brand. But this guy is squatting on it on Twitter, so I use @surfjournalist there. Regardless, I say all that because over on Twitter and Threads, I posted a lot of great content from Andre Iguodala's retirement ceremony yesterday. It was a phenomenal event, among many things, but that's how you can find us on socials. Sophia Jones, we're going to give some love to our sponsors in just a minute, but first and foremost, how are you doing, and what is your immediate reaction to the Golden State Warriors being legit? The vibe has changed, Sophia. How are you doing, and how are you feeling about these Golden State Warriors?
I'm doing well, and I'm feeling really good. I was taking a peek at the standings after yesterday's game, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more. But they're not too far away from that 6th seed and not even having to compete in the play-in. And with this roster right now, I really think they can get that.
Agreed. I wholeheartedly agree. Like some people are still treating that 6th seed like it's this distant, vaunted accomplishment that's incredibly difficult to get to. Not really. I mean, first of all, the Warriors are tied with Minnesota and the Mavericks, and which goes to show how important that game was yesterday. But they're tied now in the loss column. The Golden State Warriors, the Dallas Mavericks, and Minnesota Timberwolves all are at 27 losses, and then the 6th seed is currently occupied by the LA Clippers, who are 31-25. The Warriors are 30-27. They're just a game and a half back of the LA Clippers. A game and a half with 25 to play, and when you look at the strength of schedule, the Clippers have a much more difficult road than the Golden State Warriors. That insane stretch the Warriors dealt with in December, it was such a ridiculous schedule. That's all in the past. The good news is that the difficulty of schedule is not from November through April. There are chunks of the calendar where life gets easy. And have you examined the schedule, Sophia? Because I went through it briefly on the program in terms of what the Warriors have to deal with in March, but I'm sure you've looked at it as well. If you don't mind, go into a little more detail about the standings themselves, because again, the Clippers are just a game and a half. That's nothing. And then the Houston Rockets are now suddenly within eyesight. That's a little more of a daunting place to get to in the standings. The Rockets are 5th right now, 35-22. The Warriors 30-27, 5 games back of the Rockets, but the Warriors also own the head-to-head. So if they finish with a tie record, the Warriors would leapfrog them. My whole point is, I don't think 5. I think even 4 is a distant yet slightly realistic possibility. Break down the standings from what you see, Sophia.
Yeah, and with just Dallas and Minnesota are sitting right ahead of them, those are two teams that the Warriors can easily catch. Dallas has lost a couple games recently, and they're probably going to continue to lose a couple more with the injuries that they're facing right now. The Timberwolves have shown that they'll drop games this season. So it's the Warriors are in a very good position. We mentioned the strength of schedule in March, and I think we talked about it last show where the Warriors could really escape with maybe only 2 losses. It's a pretty favorable schedule towards them. And the fact that also Jonathan Kaminga still hasn't even come back yet. So the fact that that the Warriors are doing what they're doing now without him, he could even booster them up more.
Oh yeah. And you're absolutely right. And the schedule, when it comes to Jonathan Kaminga, my prediction was wrong. And again, it was just a prediction. I was not basing it on anything other than what I think, and it was wrong. I'm a human being. I miss sometimes. So I thought Kaminga was going to come back tomorrow, which is the Warriors hosting the Charlotte Hornets. But I did read somewhere, and I don't know if you've heard anything as well, because after the Warriors play the Hornets, they're going to start a 5-game road trip. And this begins Thursday, February 27th, the last February game of the year for the Warriors. They're going to be at Orlando. That's not going to be an easy one, but very winnable. And then they travel to Philly to take on a hapless 76ers team. Side note, that game is nationally televised Saturday night at 5:30. The Warriors are going to be in Philly. I imagine when the network execs had scheduled this for prime time, they imagined a healthy Joel Embiid. They imagined a Paul George, a version of Paul George that we've seen in the past, not this current iteration, which is making people squirm. He's so lucky, side note, that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, because if Philly fans were not riding sky high on the Eagles winning that chip, I think there would be a hell of a lot more focus from that really I don't know if toxic is the right word, but aggressive, brutally honest when it comes to the Philly media. They're not shy. And Paul George has incredibly escaped a lot of the scrutiny that normally comes with professional athletes in the Philadelphia media scene. That's not going to last forever. At a certain point, there's going to be a lot of vitriol directed at Paul George for the amount of money he's making and the stats that he's putting up this year. But outside of Tyrese Maxey, there isn't a lot of optimism coming from Philly. That's the Saturday game. And then the Warriors play Charlotte again on Monday. Tuesday, they're in Madison Square Garden to take on the New York Knicks. That's always a special stretch of the schedule for Stephen Curry because it's a homecoming on Tuesday. He loves playing at the Garden. I'm never going to forget that 54-point performance, which once upon a time was a career high for him, even though they lost that game insanely. This was about 10 years ago. And then they finish up the road trip Thursday, March 6th at the Brooklyn Nets. I foresee a lot of positive things happening on this road trip. The Warriors have shown, and this is where chemistry is a vitally important variable, when teams travel together and they win on the road, that's a very strong sign that you have a team full of individuals that like each other, that get along, and that camaraderie, that chemistry rings very true with this Warriors roster. The whole point of this diatribe is for me to tell the audience, and you, Sophia, in case you don't know, but I'm guessing you do, that Jonathan Kaminga reportedly might make his debut Thursday at the very start of the road trip at the Orlando Magic. I don't know if you've heard anything you want to add to that in terms of the upcoming 5-game set on the road for the Warriors.
Yeah, when I attended the Warriors at Kings game this past Friday, I was around the team and some of the staff a little bit, and I heard some rumblings that Jonathan Kaminga, or they said last week that he could return this current week. So things are definitely trending upwards for pretty soon return for Jonathan Kaminga.
You went to the Sacramento game. Describe your experience, because one thing I heard is there were a lot of Warriors fans there. And when the vibes are good in Dub Nation, they travel. They make themselves heard. I mean, Stephen Curry is the clear catalyst for the love that the Warriors get in these various destinations. But when they're winning, it doesn't hurt things. How was the vibe in Sac? Because normally the Kings fans own Golden One, but I heard Dub Nation invaded. What did you experience?
I would say it was about 60% Kings, 40% Warriors.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's a little hard to tell because the Warriors fans were obviously louder because they blew the Kings out that game. and I was sitting behind the Warriors bench in a couple rows up in the stands, obviously. But so I think I was in a predominantly Golden State section. However, that's kind of my estimate in the percentage of the fans at Golden One that were cheering for the Warriors.
And the Warriors, since Jimmy Butler got here, they're 5-1 in the 6 games that they've played. And these aren't close games. They're beating the shit, pardon my French, out of these teams. Jimmy Butler's first game at the Bulls, they won 132-111. At Milwaukee, they won 125-111. None of us are going to forget that Mavericks game, which was shiesty as all hell. If you apply the word rigged to that game, I'm not arguing with you. A game that the Warriors lost 111-107. Outside of that blip, that anomaly, they beat Houston on the road 105-98, the second of a back-to-back. They were tired, yet that was a statement win for the Warriors. They beat Sacramento, the game you went to on Friday, 132-108. They beat Dallas last night, 126-102. They're beating the piss out of these teams. That margin of victory is not a coincidence. It's largely tied into the impact of Jimmy Butler. Sophia, we haven't heard your reaction to yesterday's win over the Mavericks. PJ Washington was back. The Warriors' mojo was also back. Draymond Green was on fire. Your reaction to the Warriors beating the Mavericks in a game that puts them tied with Dallas in the loss column?
Yeah, you talked about team chemistry earlier, and I felt like that was extremely on display in the game yesterday. It was very much share the wealth. Everyone was high-fiving each other. There were a lot of smiles and celebrations going around. I even saw there was a moment that stuck out to me where Brandon Podziemski and Jimmy Butler had an embrace, and they were smiling and they seemed like they were laughing with each other, which was kind of a little bit of an unlikely pair to me at first. But I mean, that's just the good vibrations that is going on the team right now. Even with Quentin Post, I would say as well, with him playing, I feel like he's been getting out of his shell and having exuberant reactions to his good plays. So it's just a lot of good vibes around the team right now.
Oh my God, yeah. Quentin Post had that monster slam in that game yesterday, and then I think that's the play you're thinking of where he just was just had all that testosterone released upon impact. It was a beautiful play, a beautiful moment. Did you see that clip, by the way? I don't know how many people actually saw this. I'll do my best to describe it, but one of the Warriors media yesterday was recording the Warriors bench. And there was this specific moment during a timeout where Brandon Podziemski sat down. And a lot of the Warriors players sit on these seat cushions. I think they're good for their backs. LeBron James is most notorious for sitting on these seat lifts, which again I think are good for the back and the posture. And please add to that if you have more information regarding those boosters, because I notice a lot of players using those now.
No,
but
I think you're right. Just more comfortable. And creates a little more distance down into the court.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I think it's good for the spine. There's health benefits to it. Did you see that clip though, where Brandon Podziemski was handed a water bottle and then drank whatever was in it and reacted the way he did? Did you see that?
I didn't see that actually.
Okay, I strongly recommend folks checking that out, because he was handed a water bottle that clearly wasn't what Podziemski was expecting. And I don't know if I could play that clip on the show just for copyright reasons, but go check it out. It's all over the place. It reminded me of like what was the movie where was it Cheech and Chong? I think it was Cheech and Chong, where Chong is in a courtroom and he grabs the judge's water and drinks it and then spits it out. He's like, "Hey, that's vodka, man!" And the judge is all embarrassed. Anyways, it reminded me of that, because whatever was in that drink that Brandon Podziemski consumed, and I'm curious to know if the chat knows anything about it. He was like just making faces, like you could read his lips going like, "What was that?" Like, I'm so curious to know what they gave Podziemski. I'm gonna guess it was not alcohol, because I think that would be kind of crazy if there's just bottles with booze in it on the Warriors bench. But I'm very curious if anyone in the chat has any clues about what was in Brandon Podziemski's drink. Let me know, because I'm very curious to know what his reaction was. Podziemski is a player that's really standing out, Sophia. When you look at his numbers last night, for example, he was in the discussion for player of the game. Him and Stephen Curry, I think, were the standouts. Podziemski was 3 of 5 from deep. He was hitting 60% of his three-pointers in that game. 7 of 15 from the field total, close to 50% shooting. We'll take all of that. But the 13 rebounds, the plus 30 net rating. Side note, Brandon Podziemski yet again leading the team in net rating. He led the Warriors as a rookie a year ago. He's back on top. All the struggles have passed. 17 points, 13 rebounds for Podziemski. And I'm seeing a lot of conversations with him and Jimmy Butler. And this just goes to show the profound impact of Jimmy Butler in terms of how he's affecting this team. What are you seeing from Podziemski? Because he looks like a different player than what we saw 3 months ago.
It almost seems like not as much on that first unit where he's in the game with Steph, but in that second unit where he's handling the ball and Jimmy is there as well. When he doesn't have that responsibility to score because Jimmy's there, and to facilitate as well because Jimmy does a lot of that and a lot of orchestrating, it seems like there's just more of a weight lifted off of his shoulders and he's playing a lot more free and loose, which has greatly contributed to why we're seeing these numbers that we are now. And I just think also with Jimmy on the team, he brought more intensity to every single aspect that is definitely rubbing off on the players. You see it in Podziemski grabbing those 13 rebounds. That's purely just by will that he's doing that. So I think that he's really been making a big difference.
Oh, big time. He's playing some great basketball among many players. Moses Moody, another player that since Jimmy Butler arrived, looks like a whole different individual. I'm glad he's getting the minutes that a lot of us, myself included, have been arguing for. I want to show you some other stats here real fast pertaining to the impact of Jimmy Butler in the 6 games that he's played with the Warriors. Stephen Curry has been a wild benefactor of this. Stephen Curry, I'm sorry, for example, this season before Jimmy Butler got here, was putting up 22.7 points per game. He was averaging 4.2 3-pointers made per game, and his average net rating per game was plus 1.6. Those aren't bad numbers, but by Stephen Curry's standards, it made a lot of people, not us included, because again, we're proud of the analysis we provide, but a lot of people were starting to question Stephen Curry and whether or not he was past his prime, whether the best days of Steph were behind him. Whether or not age is catching up to him like it does with everybody, although there's no exact science in terms of when, and LeBron James and Tom Brady are prime examples that there are exceptions to the rule. But Jimmy Butler shows up. And since Jimmy has arrived, Stephen Curry is now averaging, and again, it's 6 games, but the sample size is growing, and eventually these are going to become just norms, not since Jimmy got here. In the 6 games that Jimmy Butler has arrived, Stephen Curry is averaging 29 points per game. He's averaging now 5 made 3-pointers per game. His net rating has gone up to a plus 1.6 per game to a plus 9.3. I'm sure there are other measurables as well, but that show the impact that Jimmy Butler has on Steph. But I think it's obvious how much better life is for Stephen Curry since Jimmy Butler got here. One other stat before I get your reaction, Sophia, on how Steph has been playing and the team in general. But free throw shooting, another stat I want to bring up, because the Golden State Warriors were dead last in the NBA in free throw percentage, which is crazy to me, before Jimmy Butler got here. In the 6 games since Jimmy has arrived, the Warriors are now second in the NBA in free throw percentage. And a lot of that is Jimmy himself getting to the line, making free throws, because that's what he does. Your reaction, Sophia, to the team becoming more efficient, which is what increased free throw attempts and makes will do for a team, and Stephen Curry putting up MVP level numbers since Jimmy Butler arrived.
Yeah, so tactically, with Jimmy obviously creating a lot of offense through his ability to get to the free throw line, that really shrinks the floor for defenses where they collapse into the paint because Jimmy's usually operates in the mid-range area, and he's drawing so much attention. And that's really freed up Steph as well. And even when Jimmy goes out to the perimeter, that's another larger defender that they're pulling out. Even in the game yesterday, Steph, obviously, he shot his threes, but it's more in the first half. He got the majority of his points from two-pointers, just going to the basket, doing a floater in the paint, or just pulling up mid-range. So just better spacing as a whole has opened up the floor for Steph Curry.
Agreed. Strongly agree. Julian Bashir, I'm sorry, no, Chris Hubner in the chat asks a great question, which is, what is Podziemski's ceiling? I think Larry Kruger once brought up the comp, and Larry and I are going to be hosting post-game tomorrow after the Warriors-Hornets game. But Larry brought up the comp of Jason Kidd. I kind of see it. I see it in terms of the physical stature and nature of the two players. Like, they're both kind of bigger point guards. They both can put up great rebounding numbers, but I think Podziemski's a better shooter. And he's going to put up, I think, better 3-point numbers when all said and done. And I don't, but in terms of comps, I kind of see Jason Kidd, but there's also differences there. I can't really think of any other player that bears similarities. Ultimately, I think ceiling, and again, ceiling means best case scenario. I think 18 points a game, 9 to 10 rebounds per game, 9 to 10 assists per game. The man could be a walking triple-double at some point while putting up 40% shooting from deep. If that's what he ends up being, I'm stoked. He could also be someone who averages 22 points a game. I don't know for certain. These are all predictions. In your opinion, Sophia, what is Podziemski's ceiling?
I agree where he could potentially get to the stage where he's just getting triple doubles on a consistent night. He's shown that he can score the ball. He's shown that he can rebound. He's a great facilitator and orchestrator of offenses. It's just sometimes a little hard to gauge because he is in that same backcourt with Steph Curry. And whenever Steph's on the floor, the offense is always going to revolve around him. So for Podziemski, it's going to be more, how am I going to solidify and exceed what my role is right now? And I feel like he's trending towards, that potentially just do it all player.
He absolutely is. And again, the 3-point shot is starting to fall more consistently for him. Podziemski on the year, let me pull up those numbers real fast. I don't have them in front of me, and I do apologize for that. Here they are. Brandon Podziemski on the season. And again, he struggled early on with his 3-point shot, especially the broken nose, the mask that he was obviously not comfortable with, played a part in all that. But Podziemski on the season, in terms of 3-point shooting, is at 32.3% now, which is on paper not very good, right? I mean, you want to, at a minimum, hit 33%. That's the Mendoza line, because 33% shooting from 3 equals 50% shooting from 2. You can live with 33%. Anything below that becomes a little sketchy, but we also know he had an awful start to the season, right? And to put it in some to give you some perspective, month of October, first month of the season, he only shot 20.7% from 3. Month of November, and he was still dealing with that nose injury and the mask, 22.2% shooting from deep. But then we get to December, and the 3-point shooting is up to 42.5. We get up to January, which Podziemski missed some games in that month, but still shot 45.2%. His numbers in February, his 3-point shooting went down a little bit. He had a few off games, and a lot of those were before Jimmy Butler got here. So he's shooting 30% for the month of February. But I think big picture, we're seeing Podziemski not be a liability as a 3-point shooter. The form looks a million times better. It looked like he was forcing a lot of those 3-point shots early on, and he's not doing that now. Are you seeing the same thing? Any final analysis or thoughts on Podziemski before we move on?
Yeah, I would just say, too, in the same way that Jimmy has had an effect on Steph, that's also what we're seeing in Podziemski a little bit, because Jimmy does have a history of kind of singling out role players on teams that he's on to really uplift them. We saw a similar case that he did with Gabe Vincent back at the Miami Heat, where he just played completely out of his mind and out of his role. And Jimmy really is a big part of that. And I think that's something that we're seeing with Podziemski a little bit now.
Totally. Absolutely agree. Sorry, I was like some weird noise coming from a part of my house, which should not be there. Anyways, I digress. Wholeheartedly agree with you. And again, Podziemski, for all the people that were crapping on this kid early in the season, for everyone who thought that, the Warriors made a mistake with the draft pick, good news is we're hearing a lot less of that rhetoric and vitriol now. By the way, Shardal, aka SGA Sports Talk, congratulations for hitting the 3-month mark as a Golden Dazer. Happy anniversary. And Shardal asking, we covered this a little bit, was just asking what our thoughts were on the Warriors winning over the Mavericks. I think we covered that in pretty good detail. So there you go. Tim Ford is saying that I was one of them. No, I wasn't. But the entire time when Podziemski was struggling, I never once said he should be traded or shipped out. But my rhetoric for Podziemski was very simply, he should be a backup point guard and not someone that's playing heavy minutes at the 2 with that former iteration. With Jimmy Butler, like a lot of these issues are masked now. But no, I was not one of those people crapping on Podziemski. And anyway, so just to clear that matter. I'm just seeing the chat here. Anyways, I want to share this one other stat that I saw in regards to the impact of Jimmy Butler. This is a cool graphic I want to share with the audience with in terms of how the Warriors are playing as a team since Butler got here. In the 6 games, the Warriors are now 4th in the NBA in point differential. They're a plus 86 since Butler got here. The Warriors are 1st in the NBA since Butler got here in terms of turnover differential, plus 41, meaning they're forcing a lot more turnovers than they're giving up. The Warriors are 1st in the NBA in free throws made with 124, 2nd in the NBA in free throw percentage, 85.5, offensive rating. They're now 6th, 119.2, meaning per 100 possessions, the Warriors are scoring 119.2 points per game. Defensive rating, for those same 100 possessions, the Warriors are giving up 104 points per game. That is good for 5th in the NBA. And the Warriors' net rating since Jimmy Butler arrived, plus 15.2, meaning they're scoring 15.2 more points per game than they're giving up, which is good for 4th in the NBA. The evidence is obvious, Sophia. Any reaction to those numbers?
I mean, that's just one of those situations where, based off of the eye tests, you can see that there's a difference with what Jimmy brings to the Warriors, but it's also reflected in the objective statistics. And yeah, one of my, I would say, the turnovers and the free throws, and especially with the turnovers, the Warriors are notoriously a high turnover team. So to really see that number improve is definitely a positive. So they're taking care of the ball, but also creating turnovers, which shows the defensive tenacity that has picked up as well.
Mitchell and Ness asking a question, which is a fair question. I have an easy answer. I don't know about you, Sophia, but Mitchell and Ness is asking that, the return of Jonathan Kaminga, and again, the expected return, not official, but multiple sources are now reporting this online, that Thursday against the Orlando Magic, the start of the team's 5-game road trip, is the target date for Kaminga's return. Mitchell and Ness in the chat is asking, will his return mess up the chemistry of the Golden State Warriors? I'm going to say emphatically no. If anything, what you see with the Warriors now, as impressive as it's been, wait until you see Kaminga back. Like if you're not seeing fear in the eyes of opponents yet, you will see it when Kaminga's back. Because when Kaminga's in that lineup, I don't know how a defense is going to stop that, Sophia. I'm so intrigued to see how this looks, but we're already seeing Butler's impact with Podziemski. Jimmy Butler is mentoring Jonathan Kaminga. The relationship is already solid. I can't wait for this. I'm excited for the impact. I don't think there's any concern when it comes to chemistry. Side note, behind the scenes, Jonathan Kaminga is very well liked in this locker room. Him and Podziemski are practically best friends. So no, I don't think this is going to impact chemistry at all. Sophia, your thoughts?
I don't think it will either. I mean, what Jonathan Kaminga has brought before to the team, and we saw how that was already good. It'll happen the same way, and hopefully even more, where his contributions will be emphasized because of what Jimmy and this new mindset Warriors has been able to do.
Do you agree? I don't know Sophia, how far back your knowledge base goes in the NBA, but Armando Lara brings up a very interesting comp. Dennis Johnson, the former Celtics point guard, they won a title in 1987. That's an interesting one. I'd have to think about that. But Armando Lara in the chat, follow his Substack. Armando, if you don't mind posting that specific link in the chat, I'll promote it. Sophia, do you see a comp there with Dennis Johnson? I feel like Johnson is smaller. I don't remember him being as good of a rebounder. But I'd have to think about that one because Dennis Johnson is not someone that I have a ton of memories pertaining to. So I don't know. Sophia, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't have a ton of knowledge on him either. I would kind of have to mull over that comparison, which kind of just goes back to show how unique of a player Podziemski is playing right now.
Yeah, agreed. Portola 45 brings up something which I know a lot of people have been talking about, which is that Jonathan Kaminga and the time he's missed because of the ankle injury. I was having this discussion at the Warriors game yesterday with a few people behind the scenes in the media section, because what I was telling my colleagues is there used to be a term applied to what Kaminga dealt with, and it's called a high ankle sprain. I don't know why that terminology got phased out of sports. You used to see it a lot in the NFL. You'd see it sometimes in the NBA, but the high ankle sprain was a term which applied to a particular part of your leg that the ankle sprain is affecting most. And usually when a player had a high ankle sprain, the amount of time they missed was in the months category. In this case, Kaminga, for example, is going to miss close to 2 months when all is said and done. And high ankle sprains, again, when people heard that, you immediately thought to yourself, this guy's going to be out for a long ass time. That's a serious ankle injury. It may or may not technically be broken, but it's, in terms of pain threshold and the impact on that part of the body, very similar to a fracture. And that's largely what happened with Kaminga. He just had a very severe ankle sprain, which in the old days they would call a high ankle sprain. And while it does feel like a very long time for an ankle injury, not as unusual as you may think. Sophia, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, just basically like how you said, where not every sprained ankle is the same. On one end of the spectrum, I would say you have a tweak. And on the other end of the spectrum, like you say, more so of a high ankle sprain. With ankles especially, there are a lot of ligaments, there are a lot of muscles, so it gets very tedious when dealing with the rehab and recovery for certain types of ankle sprains, and especially with a player like Kaminga, where he's young and he plays very explosive, because style of play does factor in as well. And not only style of play, but he takes a lot of defensive assignments as also. So when considering all the factors, you want to err on the side of caution, especially with his case.
Agreed. And you brought up the conditioning factor, right? And especially for a player like Kaminga, who's very explosive, who relies largely on that athleticism, you're not going to rush him back. You need him to feel ready to play. And so at this point with Kaminga, it's not so much about the pain, it's about the conditioning. Just getting him ready so when he's on the court, he's not winded in like 2 minutes. He's not, he's not a liability defensively, because as you mentioned, he is oftentimes one of the team's best defenders, and the team is treating him accordingly, meaning assigning him oftentimes the best opposing basketball player. Side note, by the way, I bring this up because I'm just very curious to get your reaction to this. Jerry Stackhouse was quoted last week by Ron Kroichek of the San Francisco Chronicle. Jerry Stackhouse, one of the Warriors' top assistants, he's the unofficial defensive coordinator, and he offered his opinion on the difference between Wiggins and Jimmy Butler as defenders. I can stop sharing this graphic. And he said that with Wiggins, he had a hard time trusting Wiggins defending the opposing team's best player. He saw space being given by Wiggins to opposing elite offensive players, and that kind of space is not something that translates to efficient defense in the NBA, whereas Jimmy Butler solves that. He brought up very common sense objective facts, like for example, Jimmy Butler outweighs Wiggins by 30 pounds, and that plays a huge part in this. What was your reaction to that? We covered this a little bit on the show, but I love your analysis. So what was your takeaway from Stackhouse's comments?
Not only would I say that Jimmy gives up less physical space, where if you don't want a player to even catch it sometimes or have any opportunity to drive or to shoot, he doesn't give them much mental space as well. He's a very mental player where he'll try to get into other players' head. He was one that told the Milwaukee Bucks, "I own you," when he was playing with the Heat. So not only is he not going to let up in his proximity to a player physically on the court and guarding them, he's going to make sure that he's living in their heads as well.
Absolutely. And Dai posts in the chat bringing up that Butler's presence similar to Iguodala in terms of guiding the young players. That ceremony was awesome. Did you get a chance to watch the speeches, by the way?
I didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't normally watch those kinds of speeches either, but I was there for it, and it was so profound in terms of its significance. Like Andre Iguodala represents the first of the dynasty to have his number retired. There's going to be a good list of players when all is said and done. Kevin Durant, I know Joe Lacob has said he's going to retire Kevin Durant's number. I'm sure Klay Thompson's number is going to be retired. Draymond Green, Stephen Curry. Will Harrison Barnes get his number retired, Sophia?
That's a tricky one. That might be more up in the air. And
it is. Anyone else?
Steph's probably going to get a statue.
Well, he better. Yeah. I think a few people should get statues, but you're right. Steph is at the forefront. Klay Thompson will probably get a statue. And again, I plead and beg for whoever's in charge of that decision, make sure Rocco is built next to Klay, because I wanted to ask Klay about Rocco yesterday. I forgot. Anyways, yeah. So Draymond Green will probably get a statue as well. There's going to be a lot of celebrations in many years to come. But how crazy is it that the Warriors are already retiring numbers of players from the dynasty, and the dynasty is still going? Like, that is wild to me. I don't know, just a thought I had. Baby Cakes, speaking of Harrison Barnes, saying that he had a high ankle sprain in 2015. And I think Armando Laura wrote on that as well, saying that people are calling it an outward twist of the ankle now instead of a high ankle, that medical professionals change the nomenclature pertaining to the high ankle sprain, whatever all this means. That I won't get into it because I am not an expert on ankle sprains, even though I did have a major surgery on both my ankles in my life. But anyways,
I'm more of a knee person personally.
Well, did you have one torn ACL or two?
I have both my ACLs and both my meniscuses. So not as much in ankles, but when there are questions about knees, I have a little bit of experience. How
do you feel? How are your knees feeling today? Is it all behind you, or are there certain reminders that you constantly experience?
I have a permanent click in my right knee that hasn't gone away, and I have to kind of wear very cushioned shoes when I try to go on runs. I love these pair from Anta, who is actually Kyrie Irving and Klay Thompson's brand, and they have great running shoes. So they're like one of the only things that help my knees.
And as you get older, you're going to notice a lot of those things. You know what's weird, by the way? Sorry to go off topic here for a second. So I've had COVID once. And after my COVID experience, which was it was so brutal. Like for 3 weeks, I could barely move. There was a week where I couldn't even get out of bed. I don't sneeze the same to this day. I had COVID, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And every time I sneeze now, it's like it's like 15 or 20 in a row. It's like a whole, like, I got to prepare for just sneeze. And there's like a good 10 to 15 straight before it finally stops. I never had that before. That is now a permanent part of my physiology. crazy, right? But you're going to experience that as you get older. Certain things just change in your body permanently, which is kind of crazy. I'm trying to look back in the chat, by the way, because a few people had an answer for what was in the bottle with Brandon Podziemski. That's a topic I brought up way earlier in the show. Again, go check it out. The clip's out there. Brandon Podziemski is handed a water bottle from one of the trainers during a timeout in yesterday's Warriors Mavericks game, takes a swig, and is immediately like, oh, like he's like, his face looks like he just accidentally took a bite of a lemon, right? That's the reaction he had, where he's just like, oh, like, what is this? And he's just like, get it away from me. And a few people in the chat, and I'm having a hard time, of course, trying to find them. Someone said it could have been beer. Another person said it might have been some sort of like alkaline water that he wasn't accustomed to. Someone else said that it was a beverage that Jimmy Butler's coffee, like SJA Sports Talk, aka Shardal Gupta, saying that there was coffee in the bottle. Bruce Morrow saying maybe the liquid was Alka-Seltzer. I would love to know. Now, I don't think anyone asked Podziemski after that game what was in that bottle. Gamer FTP saying that Jimmy's coffee might be in the bottle. Are we going to see Jimmy Butler coffee shops here in the city soon? Is he going to be competition to Phil's?
I would love to see a Big Face Coffee company here in the city. I feel like San Francisco is one of the best coffee cities I've honestly ever traveled to. And having that experience living in Miami and coming here, the coffee scene out here is so much better. Not just the coffee, but I'll also say cafes. So like I'm a big matcha girl, so I love going to cafes and getting matcha.
My experience in Miami was, first of all, the weather is just too warm to appreciate coffee in the same way. I couldn't find a single drip. Like everywhere I went for coffee in Miami, you had these espresso drinks, right? Like whether it was what do they call those, Americanos, where it's like a shot and then the hot water, or I couldn't get like a regular coffee. Is that the standard experience in Miami?
It definitely is. I would say it's honestly where I was located. I was more in the suburbs a little bit, but it was genuinely hard to get to a coffee place that wasn't like a Starbucks or Dunkin'. And I've not tried banana matcha, but that looks amazing. Or sounds amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oberon bringing up banana matcha in the chat. Mitchell and Ness saying that the drink that Podziemski was handed was one of the players' special hydrating drinks, and he wasn't accustomed to it. Oberon with a bold take also saying that Phil's is overrated. I love Phil's. But according to Oberon, it's overrated. Did you try, like when you lived in Miami, did you see what Jimmy Butler's coffee shops, and did you try it?
You know what? I came out to the Bay Area for university before he really started that up, because he started making the coffee in the bubble in 2020, which by then I was out and playing at San Jose State. So I missed his expansion store.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I'm very curious to see if he opens up, if he opens the shop. Bill M, you didn't have to say "and not your side." Very obvious statement saying that Sophia, your hair is beautiful. Yeah, I think it goes without saying that I'm not part of that conversation, and that's okay. I'm 46 years old. It's a miracle there's anything left up here. Dr. Rosanelli, I will be calling you soon. Oh, by the way, we haven't even given a shout out to our sponsors yet. We're 43 minutes in. Better late than never. Couple sponsors give love to. Visit Humboldt. Did we talk about this already on last week's show, Sophia? Oh, we did. Okay, so again, one of the most beautiful parts of California, and that's saying something, is the actual Northern California. People call San Francisco and the Bay Area, they call Sacramento Northern California. If you look at a map, we're in Central California. The real Northern California is Humboldt County. And it is stunning with the national parks, with the state parks, with the redwoods right up to the coast, with those massive cliffs that represent the Lost Coast and all the trails you can hike. It's an outdoor paradise. You can also go to the Samoa Cookhouse for an unbelievable meal in Eureka. Go check out Humboldt and start off by visiting visithumboldt.com to learn more about it, or just DM me. I'll happily give you advice. I lived in Humboldt once upon a time. Called it home, was a former student at what they used to call Humboldt State University. Now it's called Cal Poly Humboldt. So again, if you DM me, I'll gladly give you advice for that. Go visit the website of Dr. Tom Rosanelli. Rosanelli.com is the website, or call 881 for your hair restoration needs. Side note, this might be the last week that Dr. Rosanelli sponsors our program. He wants phone calls, and despite my pleas to him, letting him know that folks don't use the phone anymore. It is not a part of communication that is popular in the modern era, regardless of how you feel about that. Like, I'm one of the last people on the planet who actually likes going on the phone and having conversations with people. Most folks are not like that anymore. But that's what Dr. Tom Rosanelli wants. So give him a call if you're interested. 415-931-9881. If you go to rosanelli.com, you get a free consultation. And if you mention Rick Barry's name, $500 off to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the 75 Warriors winning the championship. And Rick Barry getting the finals MVP on that. And again, if you want Dr. Rosanelli to go away, just don't call him. Plain, it's that simple. We're going to lose him this week if he doesn't get phone calls. So that's how it works with Dr. Tom Rosanelli. Got to give some love real fast as well to Underdog, and more specifically Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code GSW for a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. I haven't made picks in a little while. I'm long overdue. I will make those picks soon, and I post those on Twitter. So if you want to follow along, and hopefully we can either win some money together or be miserable together, because misery does love company. And last but not least, BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform. Go have fun on there. Go win some money on there. The line for the Warriors and Hornets, let me look that up real fast because that also pertains directly to our program. Sophia, I'm going to ask you to guess what the line is going to be for the Warriors and the Hornets tomorrow. What would you guess?
Okay, I'm not very familiar with betting language. What is this, like the amount that I think the Warriors are going to win by? Is that what you're asking me?
Or lose by? Maybe you think the Hornets
I think
will be
they'll win. I'll start with that. I think I haven't kept up with the Hornets too much, but I would say the Warriors have to be favored by at least 9 tomorrow.
Ooh, especially with the way the Warriors have been blowing teams out since Jimmy Butler got here. Well, the line is not posted yet, so your guess might be right. Stay tuned for that. Go visit BetOnline's website if you want to get that specific line. But there are games tonight, Sophia, which bear a lot of relevance for the Golden State Warriors. The Minnesota Timberwolves, for example, play the OKC Thunder. OKC is favored in that game by 11.5. And if OKC wins, the Warriors will be ahead of the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I think Dub Nation will have a vested interest for that game. Again, OKC favored by 11.5. And if they win, the Warriors will move up to the 8th seed tonight by just sitting back and doing nothing. Another important game that bears relevance for the Warriors. There's 2 of them tonight here on this Monday, February 24th. The Sacramento Kings are hosting the Charlotte Hornets. Ooh, the Hornets are in for a doozy of a back-to-back. They're probably going to get their butts kicked by the Kings and then get their butt kicks again by the Warriors. The Kings are favored tonight by 11, Sophia. Now that you know that, do you still think the Warriors will be favored by 9, or do you want to revise your prediction?
I would say at this point they have to be favored, especially on the second night of a back-to-back for the Hornets. I would say 13.
Yeah, exactly. That line's going to be higher than what the Kings are favored by right now. So again, Sacramento favored by 11. And if you're a member of Dub Nation, you have a rooting interest in that because the Kings are still right behind the Warriors in the standings. And that's not all. There's more action that is relevant and important. A lot of games here on a Monday. Oh, no, actually, no, that is it. The rest of the lines that I'm seeing here are for Tuesday, but the Warriors and Hornets line is not available yet. So that's your action. So when we next reconvene here on the program, the Warriors might be the 8th seed, thanks in large part to the OKC Thunder. And going back a second to Jimmy Butler, I want to play this clip real fast because after the game, Jimmy Butler was asked, well, I don't know if he was asked anything, but the reason why I'm going to play this clip is because of the human nature element of it. I just think it's really funny. It's in terms of a scenario that we all have to deal with in life. But when you think of professional athletes, this is not a topic that I think most people are contemplating, but it's a part of life and it's housing. Here's Jimmy Butler. This was immediately after the game last night. in a very celebratory mood, having just beaten the Dallas Mavericks. And someone asked him, I don't know if someone asked him anything, but he's talking. And here, Jimmy Butler, here he is.
First game is a dub. It's always good. Now I got to find somewhere to live. I got nowhere to live out here.
That's it. I have a spare bedroom. Jimmy, you're welcome to come here. I have an English bulldog. Do you have a spare bedroom in your place, Sophia? You can offer Jimmy Butler?
Nope, that's for my parents, but I'm in a 2-bedroom now with me and my parents. But I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't mind if Jimmy was here occasionally. We actually, where I'm located, I live about 2 blocks away from where Draymond Green lives, and in the same building as, or used to be the same building as Lindy Waters. So
cool.
Maybe he can look around here.
I wonder if he's been staying in a hotel. I imagine that's been what's been going on lately. SJ Sports Talk bringing up San Jose State in the chat, saying the Spartans baseball team is currently undefeated. They have 6 straight wins in a row, and that the baseball team is one of the most badass teams in all of professional baseball. As an alma mater of the Spartans, Sophia, a former player, a former point guard more specifically, on the San Jose State Spartans, do you keep track of your alma mater sports teams? How's the women's basketball team doing? And do you keep track of everything going on in your former home?
I keep track of more so the women's team, and I still follow like the overall athletics account for San Jose State. And I'll see, especially their football team did pretty well this past year as well. And so I'll keep up a little bit, but I didn't know about the baseball team, but good for them.
Yeah, undefeated so far. That is good stuff. Baby Cake saying mushroom coffee is divine. Have not tried it. It sounds gross.
My dad loves mushroom coffee, actually. He's very into the holistic wellness, just lifestyle, I guess I could say. And specifically with mushroom, there's one in particular called lion's mane that's supposed to be very beneficial for cognitive function. So
really,
yeah.
What is the premise? I mean, the idea sounds disgusting. Mushrooms, like, what are they ground up and they're basically they're like coffee grounds, but they're mushroom? Like, what, do you know what the premise?
Yeah, it's essentially, and you know what? I actually just remember I got this mushroom, I think it's called turkey tail mushroom matcha from the farmer's market at the Ferry building a couple weeks back, and there's a woman there with a stand just dedicated to special mushroom drinks. But yeah, they basically just have a lot of either cognitive or just cognitive benefits, I'm pretty sure.
The fact that you told me your dad consumes it, and we were having a discussion about this before we started recording, I was commending your father for the rigorous work schedule he is doing on a day-by-day basis, where he's the play-by-play voice for the Kings and the NBA, meaning like a day off for him is rare. Is that correct? Like he's either traveling or working pretty much every day, correct?
Yeah, this time of year especially is really.
But if he's endorsing mushroom coffee and saying that it's improving his cognitive skills, you've got me intrigued. You've got me intrigued. I might actually check that out. Baby Cake's adding that the vitamin D is potent in mushroom species. SG Sports Talk, or Boy Chardal, saying he loves mushroom coffee. I might have to be open-minded and check that out. Have you tried it yourself? Or is it just your dad?
Just my dad. I'm not a big coffee drinker myself personally, so I kind of leave that stuff to him. Like I said, I'm more of like a tea and matcha person.
Tea's good too. I drink tea a lot.
Love a good tea.
Very good for you, by the way, as well.
Yeah.
So, and some folks in the chat bringing up Humboldt, one of our official sponsors, saying, "Call me gross." Nice handle. Saying that Humboldt is my favorite place on the planet. So beautiful. Agreed. Do you want to hear, Sophia, from Tim Legler? Do you have respect for his analysis? I feel like he's one of the smarter guys in the mainstream media covering basketball. What's your take on Legs?
Yeah, I mean, my dad's worked with him a couple times. He said really good things about Mr. Legler. Well,
I think Legler is his analysis is legit. I'll say that. Like, I have a lot of respect for when he talks. Armando Laura, you are correct on him. Good.
Sorry, that last comment about Rise Mushroom Coffee, that's actually the specific brand that my dad drinks as well.
Oh, there you go.
So
Patrick Singh bringing that up, saying Rise spelled Ryze. And then Chardol, 1 minute you're saying you love mushroom coffee, and then the next minute you're saying you want to try mushroom coffee. Chardol, well, what's going on with you there, buddy? Armando Laura, you're absolutely right. I'm a Scotch person, but that's when I drink, and I rarely drink. But yeah, when the time calls for an alcoholic beverage and a steakhouse usually is the optimum setting for that. House of Prime Rib, just any place like that where you're gonna sit down and just chill for a good 2-3 hours. Give me a Scotch glass. Give me one of those big ass ice cubes. Boom, Scotch. I'm happy. Yeah, it's good stuff. Scotch in my belly. It's delicious. Chardol saying he loves vodka and tequila, but then the very next post is going to say you've never tried vodka or tequila, because Chardol wants to keep people guessing like that. Respect to you. Let's hear from Legs. He talked about the Warriors and the impact of Jimmy Butler. And this topic will never get old to me because the impact of Jimmy Butler is incredible. The Warriors are a whole new team now. And here is Tim Legler, one of the rational voices in mainstream media, talking about Jimmy Butler and the Warriors.
What has Jimmy Butler brought to Golden State here?
Well, look, we've talked about a lot of the things, and everybody keeps echoing the same things. Obviously, the toughness, the edge, the two-way player, 20 points a game is nice. But for me, I think it's his passing and his ability to understand where to go to occupy open spaces. His IQ is off the charts. We didn't really talk that much about it when Jimmy Butler came to Golden State because we knew they needed his offense. They needed his ability to isolate, get to the foul line. That helps their defense. It helps Steph Curry rest when he's taking, a minute of real time to go shoot those 2 free throws. All of those things matter. But I'm so impressed with his ability to fit in the confines of the continuity of their offense, because that was what you didn't know. How's that going to work out exactly? Well, Jimmy Butler just knows how to play basketball, and that's what Steve Kerr was alluding to. Simple plays that fit, and he keeps the flow moving. You don't have to disrupt anything for Jimmy Butler to be productive. That's been, I think, the biggest breath of fresh air in this acquisition. And there's no doubt they run out of the tunnel different. They feel better about themselves. They feel like they now have enough to compete against whoever's in front of them. And I'm not sure they did prior to Jimmy arriving there.
No, they did not. I mean, they might not have even made the playoffs before this trade. I brought this up, Sophia, on last night's show with the Hall of Famer Rick Barry, and I'd love to get your insights on this. A couple days ago, the Lakers were in Denver to play a Nuggets team that had owned both the Lakers and the Warriors for the last 2+ years. And the Lakers implemented a strategy, which is very simple. It's nothing complicated about it, but it was insanely effective. And they basically decided that if the Nuggets were going to beat them, they were going to dare the Nuggets' other players not named Nikola Jokic to do so. They double-teamed him. They triple-teamed him. They forced the ball out of Jokic's hands, and the results were profound, which is apparently our word for the day because I keep using it. The Lakers took care of business in Denver. They held Jokic, I believe, to 12 points. I can't remember the exact total. I think that's what it was. My point is they might have revealed the blueprint for how a team like the Warriors, who don't necessarily have an elite center, how a team like the Warriors can shut a team like the Nuggets down. We heard Legler talking about the Warriors looking like a totally different team. The Nuggets are to me, the primary litmus test in terms of whether or not the Warriors are a true contender for a championship. And if they do what the Lakers did, I think another Larry O'Brien trophy is in their future, Sophia. What are your thoughts on Legler's comments and the strategy the Lakers used to beat Denver, which is something I think the Warriors can also do?
Yeah, I agreed with Legler's comments completely, just especially about the way that with Jimmy, he's worked so well on the team because he just simplifies everything down. And he simplifies it so that the offense is just flowing more. He knows where to go. He knows where to pass. He just has that knowledge and IQ. And so I agree with what Legler said. But with the Nuggets, that's one of those, it's a very risky scouting report for sure, game plan. Because you can have it where on the night, like the Lakers played, where it works and forcing it out of Jokic's hands and making other players create works well and they don't really produce. Or you can have a night where a Jamal Murray decides that he wants to go off, or even like a Christian Braun just sits in that corner and knocks down threes. So it's a risky thing, but I do think getting it out of Jokic's hands definitely will be beneficial. I would say between that and then where the Warriors have also had a lot of success versus the Nuggets in the past is when they're putting Jokic in pick and roll situations where Jokic is guarding that ball handler, or either guarding or doing some type of a hard hedge, especially if that's Steph. You have to switch up onto the shooter. And so putting Jokic in those ball screen actions and force him to make defensive decisions, whether that's move or to not really move, that's another thing that has also proved successful for the Warriors.
And piggybacking off what you said, and look, we're talking postseason here, 7-game series. I don't know if there's a better strategy than forcing Jamal Murray to beat you 4 times, right? Forcing a player like Christian Braun to beat you 4 times. And again, the Lakers did it in just 1 game, but that they might have set the blueprint here. We shall see. But the Nuggets are not known for having depth this season. I will live with Russell Westbrook putting up 20-footers all day, if that's what the option is for the Nuggets by shutting down Jokic. It makes me a hell of a lot more optimistic about the Warriors' chances this year. That's for damn sure. I want to finish the show on this note, Sophia, and then we'll call it a day. The Warriors added another player. They stay active. New Jersey in the chat writing, bringing up Taron Armstrong, an Aussie player. Bruce Morrow asking, is Taron Armstrong ever going to play? Sophia, I don't know if you did your research on this. Taron Armstrong played, I believe, 2 seasons of college ball here in the States. Then he went back to Australia and has been playing in the Australian National Basketball League. He's 6'6". He has handles like a point guard. Dude can score. Dude is physical. The NBL, the National Basketball League, I think that's what they're called, and that is Australia's primary professional league. They even posted a hype video. So why don't we watch this first? And then if you have any analysis of new Warriors 2-way player, Taron Armstrong, I'd love to hear it. But first, and this is courtesy again of the NBL, which is the professional league in Australia. Here is a highlight package of new Warriors 2-way player, Taron Armstrong.
Make no mistake about it, and this kid is legit.
Armstrong likes the matchup against Magnay. The dribble moves, the step, and the score. Taron Armstrong showing all his wares. Taron Armstrong with eyes at the back of his head.
Shooting over 42% from 3.
Taron Armstrong. Armstrong, a spectacular pass to Rob Edwards. Gee, this is fun to watch. That's serious talent. So fun to watch. And this man, Taron Armstrong, putting on a show.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know what that move is called.
Wow, there's one dropping for Armstrong. There's that IQ that you've been talking about, Pete. He's just so crafty. Gets inside and finishes, and that is a thing of beauty. Here's Armstrong. Oh, wow.
He's taken the massive leap forward. He's the most improved player.
All right. Hype videos are just that, right? I don't think you can base a proper analysis on that, but he looked good. It doesn't hurt to have those broadcasters hyping. What is your take on Taron Armstrong? Because I don't know a damn thing about him. Do you, Sophia?
I am unaware. You said that his listed height was 6'6".
Correct.
That might be a little bit of a tall, or he's looking at the highlight reel. He looks like he's a little bit of a short 6'6".
Yes. Yes.
6'6" with shoes, maybe, but I mean, he looks like more point guard, handling the ball, facilitating, making those flashy passes. I'm sure we might not see as many of those, but the fact that he's a 2-way player means that he can definitely develop in the G League with the Santa Cruz Warriors for a little bit. And the Warriors and every single team in the NBA also, they end up at some points in the season where they really have to call up some players because they're facing injuries or just whatever. So he provides a little bit more athleticism in comparison to a Pat Spencer, who I think they might play a little bit of a similar position. But kind of at this time of the year as well, having a guard or point guard try to come in and learn a team's entire system can be definitely challenging, which will be interesting to see. But they'll can definitely anticipate that he'll probably spend a lot of time with the Santa Cruz Warriors.
And Baby Cakes in the chat, great handle, by the way, saying that Taron Armstrong is from Tasmania, that little island. What is it? It's an island nation. I don't know much about Tasmania. It's intriguing, though. And obviously, if you're a Looney Tunes fan, you know all about the Tasmanian Devil. But so apparently he's from there. I love the what you said, though, about the fact that he bears some resemblance to Pat Spencer, but bigger, right? Spencer's, 6'3", and Taron Armstrong is 6'6". I love the fact that Mike Dunleavy Jr. First of all, Mike Dunleavy Jr. so far so damn good. You in my book, you got to win a championship. I know my standards are high. Okay, I'm not pretending that they're not, but win a title and MDJ, you're forever good in my books. So far so damn good though. I mean, not just with the second round picks, whether it's Quentin Post, Trace Jackson Davis, the Brandon Podziemski pick. So far so good, right? And the Jimmy Butler trade, that was his fingerprints were all over that. We reported here that again, Mike Dunleavy Jr. and Butler were teammates playing for the Chicago Bulls. And so that relationship was a catalyst for the team aggressively pursuing Jimmy Butler. And now Dunleavy Jr. Plucks out Taron Armstrong. Again, the people who cover Australian basketball, everything they're saying is that this kid is legit, that he was due for a call up to the NBA. He's going to reportedly split time between Santa Cruz and Golden State. I do love the fact, though, that he again, who knows what he's really all about. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm an expert. All I can tell you is from my very brief research, he looks like a point guard. At least he has the skill set of a point guard in a 6'6" body. And that seems to be like the dream player for Steve Kerr. So we shall see what happens. Someone in the chat asked about Kevin Knox and whether he's going to be a rotation player. Let me see if I can find that in the chat. Oh, here. Jay Capinia asks, will Kevin Knox get rotational playing time, or do you think he's just going to see garbage time minutes? I mean, the impression I'm getting is that this Warriors team, in terms of rotations, is starting to become established and set, which is a good thing. Okay, like you want consistency established as you're getting into the postseason. So I don't know if Kevin Knox is going to crack the rotation in terms of getting significant minutes. He might, you never know, like, especially if he's just lighting it up on a consistent basis in those garbage time minutes. But I don't know if Kevin Knox is going to be cracking serious rotations. Any thoughts on that, Sophia?
I agree, especially with Kaminga coming back soon. That's not really someone that I see taking away minutes from the existing solidified rotation.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. So yeah, and what the F is fashion, bringing up that Kevin Knox only signed a 10-day contract. Yes, but he could sign another 10-day contract. And friendly reminder, the Warriors need to fill 14 roster positions. So those players that are on 10-day contracts right now, Kevin Knox, Yuri Collins. I highly doubt Yuri Collins will be a permanent part of this team. You never know. He actually did look good in garbage time yesterday, but more realistically, Kevin Knox will be a part of the roster for the postseason. And then who that 14th guy is, maybe that's why Taron Armstrong was signed, because competition does breed excellence. And maybe they're going to be holding a behind-the-scenes competition there to see who's going to earn that 14th spot. And Taron Armstrong could be in the conversation there. So, but yeah, Baby Cakes, I agree with you certainly that the experimenting days, now that you've got Jimmy Butler with Kaminga coming back, yeah, those days are done. Now it's time to get ready for a deep, successful postseason run, and we shall see what happens there. Final thoughts. SGA Sports Talk is predicting that the Warriors will beat the Charlotte Hornets tomorrow 125-60. That would be a 65-point victory. The crazy part about what he just wrote, it's not out of the realm of possibility. You never know. probably not going to happen, but you never know. Sophia, any final thoughts? Anything from the WNBA, by the way? I heard that the Golden State Valkyries signed their rookie. Anything you want to add to that? Anything else going on in the WNBA that you feel like we should cover?
Yeah, not a whole lot going on in the W right now. It's just a lot of players either playing overseas or in the Unrivaled League, or there's also an Athletes Unlimited League. So they're just kind of in their WNBA off season playing.
Nice.
Yeah.
And again, I'm really excited for the coverage we're going to provide once the NBA season ends and the WNBA season starts. We will also be a Valkyries program. There's a reason why right up there it says V for Valkyrie. That is the name of our show within a show where we cover the Golden State Valkyries on top of the Golden State Warriors. So great show, Sophia. You nailed it again, as always. I want to do a little solicitation here for a brief moment. If you folks don't mind, I'm going to post our email address, warriors24pod@gmail.com. I do that because, again, chances are Dr. Rosanelli, it was a hell of a 1+ month run, but the man wants phone calls, and in this day and age, no one is using their phones. So we're going to have a hold of fill for sponsorship. We actually have room for 2 sponsors. And if you're interested in partnering with our program, warriors24pod@gmail.com, shoot us an email. V for Valkyrie in particular needs a title sponsor. So the doors are currently open. Emails are being accepted. Reach out to us. We'll do our best to promote your company, your organization, whatever it is you want raised awareness for. We will be your folks for that. So again, shoot us an email, warriors24pod@gmail.com. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, that like button, because it does help with the algorithm and it helps with our show growing. Otherwise, I think that is it. Any final thoughts, Sophia? Did we forget to cover anything? Are we good? Your thoughts?
I think that we're good. I'm looking forward to doing this program with hopefully a good stretch of wins in a row.
I can't emphasize enough how happy I am you're a part of this, Sophia. This show is a million times better because of you. So thank you. And again, we're going to get a sponsor for Vifa Valkyrie soon. And I'm looking forward to that. Sophia, you kill it as always. You are a talent. Thank you very much. I just want to see if there's anything else in the chat that needs to be addressed. I don't think so. Baby Cake saying go Aces. Ooh, that's it. That's an LA fan there, right? Is that the
That's a Las Vegas fan.
Oh, I apologize. Again,
Yeah.
I have a lot to learn. Yeah, that's a Vegas fan there. Are they gonna be I know Asia Wilson is their star player, but they did lose Kelsey Plum. What is their status for this coming year?
They lost Kelsey Plum, but gained Jewel Lloyd. They also lost Tiffany Hayes, their 6th Woman of the Year. Tiffany Hayes actually signed to the Valkyries, so that was a great offseason get. But the Aces have Asia Wilson, so they're never going to be out of the question.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a rock star. Do you like those Allstate commercials? I've noticed the WNBA getting some more prevalence on the commercial scene. Sabrina Ionescu is featured in those. Asia Wilson. Do you like those spots?
Yeah, there are like a lot of CarMax commercials, I think, and then
That
the
too.
Allstate ones. I like the
Oh, you're right.
Allstate
That is
ones.
CarMax. The one where they're all cramped in the car. I
Yeah.
apologize. Yes. Okay.
The Allstate one, they have them with Caitlin Clark and Juju Watkins, separate ones, but they're pretty creative. I love seeing WNBA players getting love.
Bruce Morrow, who's a huge WNBA fan, saying that Lloyd cannot defend. Your thoughts?
But she can score. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. I don't know.
An aim assist, by the way, bringing up some of those teams ahead of the Warriors. The Clippers, again, a game and a half ahead. Aim assist mentioning that the Clippers are going to have a stretch here in their schedule where they're playing OKC back-to-back. They still have to play Cleveland twice. The Lakers have a stretch where they're going to be playing 10 games in 15 days. I saw LeBron complaining about it on social media. He did not get a warm reception to that. But yeah, so whereas the Warriors are going to be facing a lot of Eastern Conference teams coming up here, which bodes well, the same cannot be said for the 2 LA teams, which is who the Warriors are trying to catch up to. So should be a good time. Brian Baldorado saying you should be a permanent co-host, working on that. We got to get sponsors. so that we can pay her on a full-time basis. But we're working on that. Sophia, I would love for you to be a part-time, have a full-time role in this. I'm sorry. So we shall see. Bruce Morrow, again, exhibiting that WNBA knowledge, saying that Ariel Atkins was traded to the Sky. What was that trade all about, Sophia? Do you know?
I'm not super familiar, but the Sky with their, I guess now sophomore year or second year players between Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso, they need to build around those two girls. And so I think by adding pieces, they're trending in the right direction.
Armando Lara in the chat saying the Warriors should have traded for 6'6" Lonzo Ball. You're not Armando. You're not the only person who brought his name up. I can't remember who it was who actually came on the show and advocated for that. A huge problem with that idea. A couple problems. The chief, though, is you're dealing with the Bulls, one of the worst run organizations in the NBA, a franchise who refuses to spend money to win, and a franchise who accepts mediocrity, average basketball as being okay. I have pity for that fan base, but I bring that up largely because dealing with them in terms of a trade, not easy. You saw what they were asking for when it came to Nikola Vucevic. They wanted a first-round pick and a second-round pick for a 34, soon-to-be 35-year-old center who doesn't play defense. Hell to the no. So dealing with them would have been difficult to start with. And the Bulls incredibly value Lonzo. Like, I don't think he was even available on the trade block. But your idea was not crazy, Armando, is what I'm trying to say. There were a few people advocating for that because Lonzo is actually playing good ball now, and he seems to be healthy for the most part. Yeah, baby cakes, they're cheap. The Bulls are a very cheap team. Jerry Reinsdorf needs to sell that franchise. If you're not going to spend, why are you in this industry? Like, why are you a part of this if all you want to do is just own a team and not care about winning? Like, that's absurd. Look, Bulls fans, you had an incredible run in the 90s. Sophia was not alive when that was happening. That is insane to me, what's going on there. I have legitimate empathy for the Bulls fan base because of what that team has to deal with on a day-by-day basis. It sucks. Anyways, I guess that's it. Great job, Sophia. You killed it as always. I want to make sure we got all our star chats. Yeah, we're good. We're done. Back at this tomorrow night. Follow Sophia Jones on Twitter at @SophiaJones_2. See you soon, kid. And thank you, everyone. And hope you don't feel disrespected that I say kid. It's not. Some people take offense to that. Okay, yeah. It is never meant as a disrespectful thing. It's just, look, I'm old. You're in the prime of your life, so that's all that thing meant.
Springtime of my youth.
Exactly. But you are a talent, Sophia, and I respect your opinion tremendously, and I feel like the audience does as well. So bravo for the great work you do. And yeah, we're done. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great rest of the Monday. Yeah, bye-bye.